Well, hello, this is Jeff Gaudiosi, and you're on misplacedstraws.com where music comes to life. And my guest today may not be a household name, but chances are you know his work. From the classic melodic rock of Valentine and Open Skies to touring the world with former Journey singer Steve Augeri, he's done it all. And he's recently released his debut solo record called Rapture, and he's here to talk about it. Please welcome Adam Holland. Welcome, Adam.
Thank you for that great introduction. Well done. Well done.
Now, as we just said, you've been in this game a bit, but
I
Rapture's your
have.
first solo record. Did you
Correct.
always have the itch to put out solo music, or was this just something that got you now?
Well, a little bit of both. I always sort of envied those guitar players who had those instrumental records, like a guy like Andy Woods, Andy Timmons, Joel Hoekstra. They put out constantly put out these solo records amongst the other projects they do. However, I never really. I've always been like a pop songwriter in a band, so I've always had a vehicle for writing songs. So the two never, I don't know, I never quite had the enough drive to want to really do that. Then, this thing called COVID happened and we had a lot of time and I started doing these little pieces for Instagram, which was like a sort of the way we all performed during that time. So they were like, at the time, Instagram had a 1 minute limit. So I'm not sure what it does now, but for real. So, I would make these tracks and then perform live to those tracks. And then a couple of those little ditties became, I was like, maybe I should develop these into some songs. And then I started working with Gerard, and then we put together a full record and decided to produce it for real and mix it and, really focus. So the answer was yes and no. It's still a yes and no answer. I still made a record that the songs aren't long. They're not really like as long as most instrumental guitar type songs, like 7, 6 minutes. These are still 3 minute songs. That's all I know how to do really. So, so I don't know if I
Well,
answered the question. It was a yes and no. So
but it's funny you mentioned the 3 minute songs. A lot of guitar instrumental records can sound a little repetitive. The song sometimes gets lost in the technique and the playing.
correct.
But what really stands out to me with Rapture is that it's very melodic. There's actual song structure to it.
That's
You
correct. Thank you. That's a great compliment.
Say,
Thank you.
is that something, did you intend to keep it the 3 minute
I
song that
did.
you do?
For second, like I said before, somehow, for better or for worse, I am stuck in that world of like a pop song where there has to be a verse, a chorus, a bridge. So I still took that approach, and I think, the answer is I took that approach and did that on purpose. I wanted to make a song, whether the melody is like guitar or a vocal.
Mhm.
I definitely went for the guitar, obviously, and a little bit of shredding. I didn't go crazy, but I wanted to show my chops a little bit. But the song was the first thing, and then the guitar playing sort of was. If I could fit some cool guitar playing in there, I did. But Joe Satriani is the most famous. Maybe Eric Johnson. There's only a few really like guitar players who have crossed over into like pop,
Mhm.
the pop world with musical songs. I think Gary Hoey did it. There's only like a few. So I tried for that. I tried to emulate more of a Satriani song base than just like a whole like. Listen, this is not this is a compliment. John Petrucci's solo album is like an intricate 7 minute like wandering
Yeah.
like holy shit. I wouldn't even know how to do that. So it's a compliment to him. And I'm a guy who writes 3 minute songs for better or for worse. So there you go. But thank you. I appreciate it as a compliment. The songs are songs. Yes.
Well, and I think the other cool thing about it is, anyone that's kind of followed your career hears as soon as they go through Rapture, it's almost like a resume for you. You've done, you talk about the pop songs, but you've done more than that. There's the heavier rock, there's kind of the country leanings, there is
Correct.
the pop stuff. And I think it all comes together on Rapture. It's almost, like a business card of
Well,
yours.
that's first of all, you have great ears, and you've given me these wonderful compliments. So thank you. But yeah, so another reason I wanted to put out a solo record and a collection of diverse songs, and you nailed it 100%. It is sort of a resume of what can Adam Holland do, and for the reason is, I've done a few things for some commercials and some, sort of work for hire stuff.
Mhm.
And Valentine licensed the song for it's going to come out in a show, somewhere. So all of a sudden, there's a new world of streaming and content that are looking for music, looking for music for all kinds of things, original, creative, whatever it is. So there's a part of this album that is a business card of what's the diverse spectrum of Adam Holland. So you go from the heavy stuff to the real atmospheric. I am a country guy. I still have that in I love that music. So there's a bunch of, this, and then again, up-tempo, 3-minute rock pop songs. There's a couple of those. So I tried to do what you just said. And I thank you for saying that, because that is something I did consciously try to do, make a sort of a spectrum of, this is Adam Holland.
Yeah,
So thank
and
you.
music has changed so much over the past couple of decades, for better or worse. But I think one of the good changes is what you just said. There's so many more outlets for music. It's
Right,
not just you're a guy in a band, it's the only thing you do.
right,
There's licensing for shows, there's so
correct.
much streaming now. For somebody like you that gets into a lot of other genres, is it freeing to be able to do that and not just be stuck in, the guy in this band?
Absolutely. That is the reason why a lot of people, the answer is yes.
Hmm.
And a lot of people, even like mega famous guys through their career, put out these solo records just to get out. Like, so if they're in a band, they have to sound like this. And they may have songs that don't sound like that. So they put them out on, some kind of solo thing. And they don't even care about the commercial appeal. They just really try to, want the outlet. But for me, this was definitely a way to just put everything out there, and all, like I said, there's all different kinds of things out, on this, all different sounds. But I do write with different people, and I do. I said I've done some commercial things, some things for hire, where a lot of what I do, people haven't heard. They're songs that are maybe a lot lighter than what they maybe know me for as a guitar player in a rock band.
Well, now, and speaking of that resume of yours, let's kind of go through it a little bit. I mean, for those of us who grew up loving the melodic rock of the late 80s and 90s, Valentine was one of the greats. That debut
Thank you,
album, it's a classic in the genre.
thank you.
Talk a bit about those days and putting that band together and kind of where it went with that record.
Well, that's a great. Thank you for that compliment. We're definitely proud of the record, and we had a good time writing. And Craig's a great writer. Hugo's a great writer. Everyone contributed to that record, and when we all sort of in the beginning, when we first met in the days of the Long Island club circuit, where we all sort of were playing in different places and got together one at a time, adding each piece. When we finally got together with Hugo and Craig and myself, like that initial burst of songwriting, we wrote a lot of our first album, just like it was boom. So we, like Naughty Girl was written really early. Someday, I think once in a lifetime. Some of the first songs we wrote, and even like little 4-track demos. So it was. So I think the chemistry, we knew we had something. I can't explain it. We knew, like, okay, wow, this is like his voice, which is like, once we found Hugo, of course, it was like, holy shit, where has this guy been hiding all of these, So once we heard it, it all came together, and we all recorded it for like their first, even our little crappy demos. It was like, wow, this is something that we could really, this is something. So, that's all in the, as musicians, you just hope to find the people that you can connect with, and even if you don't always get along, which we did, though, don't get me wrong, you just want the musical chemistry. Sometimes a rub can cause a great music, you don't always want peace and harmony, you want some friction. Do you hear my dog? My dog's going crazy upstairs. I'm sorry. I'm like, what is she doing?
Timing is everything. And the 90s were
Right.
a real strange time for bands like Valentine and that
Right. For,
melodic.
for the bands of the 80s, the
Yeah.
90s was like, what the hell? But yes. So
Yeah.
having said that, the 90s were still great. I always, everybody bashes the 90s. The only thing bad about the 90s was that it put an end to the 80s of the style of music. Having said that, the 90s music was great. It just was a whole different animal. So for guys like myself who played in a 80s band, it was like, what the heck? Everybody ran into a wall all of a sudden. The wall wasn't there 5 minutes ago, and now you're like running full speed and slamming into a wall. And it's hard to like readjust. Like it's hard to say, okay, everything you did, just you can't do it anymore. It's like it was, and none of us were thinking like, well, we're in the '80s, we have to do this. It was just like that was the time. You had the hair was just part of the vibe and the, I don't know, it was just part of the genre. It wasn't, I don't think look was not more important, but it just was like they call it hair metal, but because we did have hair, all of us had crazy long hair, so.
Now, you were able to kind of survive that change when a lot of other people weren't. And a lot of that was because of your talent as a writer. You transitioned into a staff writer in Nashville. Is there a different kind of satisfaction when you hear another artist take your song and make something out of it?
Yes, it's pretty wild. And I just did something recently with a guy, a great singer named Jeff Coffey. He played in Chicago for a while. So I've just given the most recent one, and he did a vocal on a song that I wrote with him and Steve Augeri and another guy. And so the answer is when you hear another voice sing your song, it is pretty wild. Yes, it's definitely satisfying. And even when you have a demo of a song and you hire like a female or a country singer to do a song, it is when you hear it for that, not like sometimes I sing my own demos, but when I hear a song with another vocalist brings it to life, it's great. I really do. Yes, it's enjoyable. It's very satisfying.
And for over 15 years now, you've been performing alongside Steve Augeri.
Correct.
You two go back much further than that, but
We
how
do.
did
We
you
have
end
a
up
bizarre.
actually playing in Steve's band, along with a lot of your Valentine bandmates?
Right. It's one of those, long and twisted, roads that looking back, you're like, wow, we didn't realize we were all intertwined. But so it goes back to our tour with Mr. Big and Tall Stories. We shared this tour. Not, I don't know why, I don't even know how, I don't know the exact details, but like we did a couple of months, they did some time. We were all back and forth for it was like a couple of year period. We both toured with Mr. Big, not at the same time though. So we got to know of this Tall Stories and we loved that record. And they were also like on Epic, either way, we like, wow. And they were they're slightly popular, Wild on the Run I remember they were a great band. And they were like not an 80s band. They were like I don't know what they were like, early 90s, really. So that was our first, like, okay, Steve, that's Tall Stories. I didn't know who Steve Augeri was, but I knew Tall Stories. Then I'm like, holy shit, that's the guy who got in Journey. You're like, wow. By the way, I'm like, it was like fantastic. He was like, listen, if you're a Steve Perry lover, people didn't, maybe there was some mixed feelings, but I thought he was a great choice for someone else had to take the place. And I love those. Arrival and all the records he did, and Generations, and especially that cool song from Armageddon. I forgot the title of it. Not terrible, but either way, Remember Me. So we knew of this guy, and then he was like, man, everyone knew. He got the gig in Journey. It was like, holy shit. And then later on down the road, when after all this stuff ended, it was Hugo who. He always got shit for being, he was blessed and cursed, I guess. Blessed that he had this incredible voice. And I want to go back to that. You asked a question about us surviving. It wasn't just my songwriting. It was Hugo's voice that really always got us like to the next, like people believed in that guy's voice. And that's how, because it was that good. So I have to give credit to, yes, I did contribute, but his voice, people were like, I think we can do something with that.
It's amazing, yeah.
Yeah, it's right. It's no question. To this day, he's still great. So then Hugo wanted to he was like, there was like the first one of the guys to put together a tribute band. He's like, I look like Steve Perry, let's just play. So he started this band, and then he invited me into the band. I'm like, I was sort of reluctant, but he's my brother. I'm like, oh, let's do it. We'll have a good time. Gerard managed the band, and I don't know, we were off. It was a great, successful thing. And then we, all of a sudden, then we're playing together. We got invited to do a couple of those Fire Fests, over those. So all of a sudden, Valentine was back. Like, we're like, holy shit, we're playing. And we met Steve and Tall Stories. He was playing at a couple of those things. So here we are all hanging out again, And it was just great to meet him because here he was we'd known him from that in the 90s. Here he was post Journey. We're like, man, like what was it like? We were like, everyone just wanted to hear like what was it like behind that curtain. So, and we had a Staten Island connection too. So either way, we hit it off. And then the that Journey cover band, we did a bunch of things for the Broadway show Rock of Ages. And then first we did the opening night, which was fantastic. Then we did these like monthly cast party. I don't know how to explain it. They were like these little smaller gigs, but if you had a ticket to the show, you could come to the China
nice.
Club, and like we'd play like a Journey set, and then we'd play some other 80s type of stuff with either the cast or something. A lot of the cast would come. I guess they were required. I don't know. Either way, so we always had a guest. So we had our friend Terry Brock came, all these different, anybody we could invite. But somehow, I don't even know how, Steve Augeri ended up as a guest. So he jammed some Journey with us. And then, so again, we've now seen him it's been a while. We got to know each other. And then he finally said, I want to put together a band. He was, a little bit hesitant in what to do. He didn't want a tribute band, obviously.
Yeah.
So but we were intrigued. I'm like, wow, I'd love to play with Steve Augeri. Not that I didn't love playing with Hugo. Please don't get me. It wasn't like any negative thing there. So when he offered that, and sort of like had the spark, Gerard wanted to play, and so did Craig, and sort of pieces of Valentine became the Steve Augeri Band. So that was sort of the flow of it, and it's been a while. So and it's grown.
And now getting back with Rapture, I mean, you have a really busy touring schedule with Steve, including a show right here at Mohegan Sun in Connecticut coming up beginning of July. Do you think you'll be able to do any solo shows to support your record?
People have asked. I don't know. The good thing is we're super busy. I have good problems, right? But I'd like to. I mean, it'd be a lot of work, but I think the answer is I'd like to. So I've thought about it and I'm thinking about it. So, but I have nothing on the table yet. But I would like to, yes.
And now that this record is out and you've had the experience of making it and getting it out there and people have heard it, does it kind of give you the itch to continue it and sort of take the next step? Or now that you got it out, are you good for a while?
No, I'm already working on another one because it's a nice, the answer is I'm already going to work on another one. I've already sort of started. I'm always writing. So the nice thing about the age we live in, like back in my, Nashville days and my songwriter days, you'd write even the most famous songwriters. You'd make these demos. It could be like whole mind-blowing songs, but no one would hear them unless they got recorded by somebody, right? Because they would sit in this sort of hard drive, or your friends and family would hear them and they drive them crazy. But now, if you want to, as a creative person, you could record something, produce it properly, and put it out into the world. And if people want to hear it, they can. If they don't, they don't. But having the option to just make a record, also with the technology, you can record it in your house professionally. I mean, you can do so much more than more economically than you could back in the 80s and 90s. So it's like, as a creative person, it's like, let's take advantage of that. So the answer is I'm looking forward to putting another one out. Gerard has 1,000 ideas that he keeps throwing at me. So it's great because he has a different kind of writing approach. It is more cinematic, more TV, it's more music, it's more instrumental. And for a while, I didn't know what to do with a lot of those ideas. Now I'm like, holy shit, keep them coming. So and he does, it's great. Not everyone is the best, but I'll gravitate onto the ones and we work on them. So
That's great. Can't wait to hear more. Well, we've been spending some time here with Adam Holland. The record is called Rapture. It's out everywhere now. Definitely recommend it. It's a fun listen. It's a great summer listen. I have to say
thank
that as
you.
well.
Thank
And
you.
Adam, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. And
Awesome,
hopefully we
man.
will catch you live really soon.
Yes, no question. Our paths will cross soon for sure. Thank you for having me. I love your platform. I love all, the giving appreciation to the melodic rock AOR world. And thank you for having me on, giving me a chance to get Rapture out there. I appreciate it, man.
Thank you, my friend.